What's up, Internet? This is Pandragon Dan, and I'm here with Morgan Strong-Comnick.
Hello!
Hello, how are you today, Morgan?
I am fantastic. How are you, Dan?
I am very fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. As always, this is a video in regards to March Disney Villain Madness, which has now finally got down to the semi-finals, and we both started off with 20 competitors. We're now down to the final 4.
Oh my gracious.
Who'd have thought we'd ever get this far, eh?
It's been a ride.
It's definitely been a ride. What's been your favourite part of it so far?
Oh my gosh, I really like seeing the results because some of them have completely floored me.
Tell me about it. Which result has surprised you the most?
Well, it kind of breaks my heart, but I was hoping Cruella would get to be in this video, but she is not.
For me, my biggest surprise was Prince John and the Horned King versus Frollo and the Evil Queen. I really did not expect it to go that way the way it did, and you know, no disrespect to your team was great, but it's like...
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shock, because I never really thought the Black Cauldron was that popular a film, but turns out there was obviously some fans hiding in the wings that just wanted to like boost it to the top.
Yeah, it's one of those cult classics, and those are more popular nowadays.
Yeah. So, for those of you keeping up with the brackets, you will know that we recently had our quarterfinals, and we're now into the semi-finals.
Woohoo!
Woo! Yeah, big thing, get the party poppers out. Woo! And, right, the semi-finals are as follows. Match 1, we have Shan Yu from Mulan going up against Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, who are 2 of my team, I believe, actually. So, for those of you who followed it from the beginning, will remember that Shan Yu and Maleficent were actually the first tag team we put across, and it feels like it's come full circle, because it's like they were formerly partners, now they become enemies.
Yeah, you told me it was kind of a dream come true, though, so...
This next match in particular, I think for me is, and certainly for a lot of people, a dream match. We have the last remaining member of your team, Morgan, which is Scar.
Poor Scar.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, if you could have anyone left in your team, then Scar's probably the best person to have.
It'd be Scar, yeah, Scar Cruella would probably be my 2
Yeah,
picks.
definitely. And he's going up against my guy, Shere Khan.
I wouldn't want to be in that zoo.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Where's Yzma when you need her? Right, so what we're going to do in this little podcast is, basically, when we first put our guys together, we had like a little list of information that we put across in each video, so you guys would have enough to vote on them. However, what we did is we kept back some of the information. Well, I certainly kept back some of the information. Morgan, I hope you kept back some of the information for your guys in case they got through.
Yes, I did.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do now is just quickly go through all the competitors for this semi-final. And I'm just basically talk for a little bit about my guys, and then Morgan's going to talk a little bit about her guys. Or just
Guy.
Really. Guy. I seriously am not throwing this in your face, Morgan, but I can only...
I know you're not. It's okay.
Right, so what we'll do is let's look at the first match and the 2 competitors in there, Shan Yu and Maleficent. Okay, so first of all, let's look at what I think personally is probably the biggest surprise competitor so far to get as far as he did. And I'm not saying I didn't have any faith in him, but I've got to be perfectly honest, I didn't actually expect him to get as far into the competition as he did. Up first, we have Shan Yu, the bad guy from Mulan. This guy's quickly become one of my favourite villains in the Disney universe, actually, because he's actually pretty badass. I mean, I mentioned something in my last video about how Shan Yu is actually both one of the strongest and quite possibly actually one of the bravest Disney villains, because, you know, if you think about it, a lot of Disney villains, they do tend to be quite cowardly and tend to like hide from the sidelines while their cronies do all the work for them. But Shan Yu actually doesn't. He does actually face the opponent, so in that respect, he is probably quite a brave villain in some ways, if you understand what I mean.
No, I do. I completely agree with that. I mean, the scene where he just comes out of the snow, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a few facts from Shan Yu that I didn't mention in my last video, and Morgan, do feel free to chip into this if you have anything to say to this as per thing.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously with Shan Yu, one of the major inspirations for him, or 2 of the major inspirations I should say, would be Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan. Now, I did actually do a little bit of research to find out their point of origin, considering where the time of the movie is. Right, now, I've got to be perfectly honest, I'm absolutely terrible with pronunciations of these sort of names, and I know that there will be a certain person watching this that will be very quick to correct me if I get this wrong, so rather than actually attempt and failing to pronounce, I'm actually going to put their names up on the screen here so you can see for yourself. But here's an interesting fact I did actually find out. Shan Yu's name is actually sort of a variation of the title Shan Yu or Chan Yu, which is apparently what said leaders of these tribes were called, in the same way that a Mongol leader would be called Khan.
Hmm.
Yeah, insert your own Star Trek jokes there. Khan! Anyway, moving on. Right, now, what I didn't mention in my last video is that Shan Yu was voiced by the actor Miguel Ferrer. I hope I'm saying his name right there. Basically, he played one of the major villains in the first RoboCop film, and I think he actually was the guy that created RoboCop in the original film. In actual fact, I think he's played a habit of playing bad guy roles because he kind of has a sort of really deep bad guy voice, which is pretty cool.
Shan Yu's got a creepy voice, so
Yeah.
that would surprise me.
Well, funny enough, one of my friends actually mentioned to me the thing with Shan Yu is, despite the fact he is quite big and hulking, his voice is relatively controlled if you think about it.
I think that makes it scarier.
Exactly, because he doesn't.
Yeah.
For the most part, he doesn't scream or shout or bark or orders. It's like very controlled, very, very calm. It's almost like nothing phases him and nothing bothers him. It's like everything's just a game to him, and he's just he knows how hardcore he is, and he's not going to let anything phase him. But here's another thing I actually noticed about Shan Yu. If you actually think about it, he's actually the only male in Mulan that doesn't belittle Mulan just because she's a girl. Because if you think about it, a lot of the male characters, that's really the whole point of Mulan. It's like Mulan's trying to find a way in a man's role, but none of the men take her seriously because of her gender. Shan Yu does, actually, and this is actually particularly notable, is when Shan Yu's about to kill Li and say, you were responsible for destroying my army. Then Mulan comes forward saying, no, that was me. He automatically changes to attacking her because he realises that she's a genuine threat. So, in some way, that's kind of commendable because it shows he's not a misogynist, and he does take women seriously, if that makes any sense.
I never thought of it that way. That's a good point, because many of the baddest villains just in any franchise usually have some kind of suave or poise or something. So
yeah, so in that respect, I guess you could say that Shan Yu's kind of like he's an equal opportunity bad guy. He treats everyone equally as the same as
he'll kill anybody equally.
Yeah, and you know what? That actually brings on to my next one, because I think personally one of the darkest moments that he has in that film is a lot of people say that one of Shan Yu's creepiest moments is when he gets those two messengers. He lets them go to tell the Emperor, and he goes to one of his troopers, how many men does it take to deliver a message? And then that guy just notches a bow and says, one. But that's not the creepiest moment. For me, I think the creepiest moment is when they're fighting through China and they find the child's doll and they work out that the Chinese armies are waiting for them through a village. And then what he says next, it goes, a little girl will be missing her doll. We should return it to her. And then that's when they get to the burning village. That seriously is quite creepy, actually. And I think, if anything, it shows what an absolute evil monster Shan Yu is, because it shows he's not above butchering children or that they're getting his way. But here's another thing I actually found out, because Shan Yu is unique in the fact that he himself doesn't really have a villain song per se. But some fans consider the deafening silence at the end of A Girl Worth Fighting For as the Hun's villain song.
Well, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I can see, because if you think about it beforehand, before that scene, when they're going to meet the Han army, they're in like singing A Girl Worth Fighting For, and it's like they're quite jolly and quite happy, and you know, it's like, I guess it kind of reminds me, I guess, like the whole when World War One started, like, you know, when people were going to war and saying how glorious it is to fight for your country, and the whole stiff upper lip kind of thing, and you know, they're in such great spirits, but then they come across the destroyed village. There's that moment of silence, and then they find General Lee's helmet and the child's doll. That's when the reality sinks in that the Huns are a genuine threat, and in its own way, I guess it could be considered the villain song, because if anything, it brings the reality to the troopers and just shows that these are your enemies. And they, you know, I kind of like to think that they'll probably look at it thinking, "My God, what we've got ourselves into."
Yeah, I don't think a song would have fit. I mean, it's such a tragic event
Exactly,
in the film. Yeah. I think a song would have just kind of hit it harder.
Yeah, I think anyway, I think that makes Shan Yu a little bit more mysterious, because if you think about it, we don't really know much of his backstory. It's like, we don't know why he became the way he did. We don't know why he wants to attack the Emperor of China, other than he's a proud warrior and he just wants to prove his strength. Because, you know, villain songs are usually, I guess you could say, a way of telling the audience what the bad guy's motivations are and all that. But because he doesn't, that kind of adds a bit more mystery to his character. Yeah. This is quite funny, I found out. That despite his popularity, Shan Yu doesn't actually make a lot of appearances in Disney World, but he was actually part of this little event called Unleash the Villains between 2013 and 2014, and that was hosted by, can you guess, Morgan?
Do I need to watch my computer?
No. Well, let's just say he's a villain that we can't seem to get away with, even though he's actually not part of the competition.
Oh, Lord Hades!
Yeah, Hades. Yeah, we just can't get away from him, can we? I think he's trying.
He's a good host.
Oh, he's a very good host. Yeah, well, yeah. So those are the main points I've got to bring up for Shan Yu. Morgan, have you got anything you'd like to add to that?
I know his grin creeps the heck out of me.
Is what? Sorry.
His grin.
Oh yeah, it's good. And those yellow eyes as well. That's really.
Yeah, but I'd probably being a teacher. I don't know if I'd want a mascot of Shan Yu because I think he's too like a normal villain in real life. And I think that'd scare the snot out of children.
Yeah, I see your point now, I guess.
Because, like Gaston, even though Gaston is humanized, he's, very arrogant, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah, indeed. But,
so,
yeah, well,
but no, he's too bad for a Disney park. I think that says something.
Yeah, in fact, that's probably the exact reason why they don't use him in Disney parks, because he is probably too close to like a real life villain. Yeah, but he certainly has his supporters outside of like the whole Disney World attractions and everything like that. So so that's Shan Yu. I guess you could say my diamond in the rough.